What is up, bros and broettes? I am Inkslasher, and welcome to another episode of Versus. If you don't know what Versus is, it's a series where we put two weapons and sometimes other things head to head to see which one is better and make you a better Call of Duty player. Today we are looking at one of the brand new weapons in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, the R-VN, versus the only other burst action assault rifle in the game, the R3K. Now I thought this would be a pretty good comparison because we're taking the two burst action assault rifles, even though they are very, very different. One reason why I say that is because the R-VN actually has a mode where if you hold triangle or hold Y, it actually splits into two weapons and you can melee people with it. Now you may be wondering whether this is actually worth a point for the R-VN, and I don't think it is, because by splitting the weapons into two, it doesn't really give you any advantage over, let's say, a combat knife, because it doesn't extend the range of the melee attack whatsoever. So because of this, we're not going to give out any points for being able to split the weapon, because you can literally do the exact same thing with the R3K by simply using a combat knife as your secondary. Now the first thing we're going to compare here is the damage profile of these two weapons. So the R-VN has a damage profile of 34 damage up close, 30 at mid-range, and 23 at long-range. So this is going to range from a 3 to a 5 bullet kill, which in this game is actually pretty average. Now, when we look at the R3K, it does 35 damage up close, 32 at mid-range, and 30 at long-range. What this means is it ranges from a 3 to a 4 bullet kill. This is in a huge, huge advantage for the R3K, mainly because you are always going to be either having a 3 or a 4 bullet kill. It will never, ever drop off to those 5 bullets that the R-VN does. So for that, the R3K is going to get +1 point and take the lead. Now, the next thing we're going to look at here is rate of fire, and since these are both burst action weapons, we can not only compare the rate of fire, but we can also compare the burst delay. So the rate of fire for the R-VN is 950 RPM, which is a really fast fire rate. The R3K has a fire rate of 909 RPM, so just by a little bit, the R-VN has a faster fire rate. So we're going to give the R-VN +1 point for that. On top of that, we can look at the burst delay. So this is the amount of time between bursts for both weapons. So the R-VN has a burst delay of 200 milliseconds, whereas the R3K has a burst delay of 300 milliseconds. So big difference between the two of those. The R-VN takes much less time between bursts, so for that, once again, it is going to get +1 point and take the lead. However, there is a big asterisk beside this, and this is the fact that these two weapons are a different type of burst action assault rifle for each of them. So the R-VN is a 2-round burst, whereas the R3K is a 3-round burst. What this means is that the burst delay is going to happen more frequently for the R-VN than it will for the R3K, simply because there's only 2 rounds per burst for that R-VN. So this is a huge problem for the R-VN, especially because it often drops off to a 5 bullet kill, which means you're looking at 3 separate bursts, which means you have to wait for 2 burst delays. This is hugely reflected in the time to kill. So as far as the time to kill goes for the R-VN, it's a 0.283 second up close time to kill, at mid-range 0.366 second time to kill, and at long range 0.599 second time to kill. This is a horrible time to kill for this weapon. Like, one of the worst in the game, especially at long range, almost a 0.6 second time to kill. And once again, that is because of the burst delay, and because at long range it takes 3 bursts to actually kill someone, assuming you hit all of your bullets. So it can be even longer than that 0.6 seconds. Whereas the R3K actually up close has the best time to kill out of any of the assault rifles at 0.132 seconds, and then once the damage drops off to 32, it then goes to a 0.432 second time to kill. So you are really punished with the R3K for missing bullets, but not nearly as much as the R-VN. So because of this, because the R3K has a much better time to kill, it is going to get +1 point and tie it up. Starting off with the aim down sights time, both of these weapons aim down sights in 0.25 seconds. Both of these weapons have a sprint out time of 0.15 seconds, and both of these weapons have a magazine size of 30 rounds. All of these things are very stereotypical for the assault rifles in Infinite Warfare. The one thing that we can compare, though, is the reload speed. So the reload speed for the R-VN is 1.69 seconds, whereas the R3K has a reload speed of 1.6 seconds. So just barely, it has a faster reload speed, but because of that, we are going to give it +1 point, and it will take the lead. Now, the one other difference with these two weapons is the R-VN is a fully automatic burst action assault rifle, and what I mean by that is you are able to hold down the trigger, and it will keep firing. We've seen this before in other Call of Duty Duty games, whereas the R3K, you have to press the trigger every single time you want 3 bullets to come out. So that's one big difference between the two. I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. You might say being able to hold down the trigger is a little bit better. However, one thing that is absolutely better for the R-VN is the fact that it has much less recoil. Normally, I don't give out points based on recoil, but there's a big difference between these two weapons. The R3K has quite a bit of recoil compared to the R-VN. The R-VN basically has no recoil whatsoever. So for that, the R-VN is going to get +1 more point and tie it up. So those are all the stats we have to look at for these two weapons. However, for the first time ever in the Versus series, I very strongly disagree with the final score between these two weapons. I very strongly think that between these two weapons, there's a very distinct winner, and we're going to talk about that. But before we get into that, I must say, I don't think either of these weapons are some of the best weapons in the game. In fact, I think these are some of the worst weapons in the game, simply because of the way aim assist works in this game and the way time to kill works in this game. I just think it's very difficult for them to actually make a good burst action assault rifle, mainly because of the aim assist, really, if you ask me. But overall, I actually have to say I think these two weapons are some of the worst weapons in the game. That being said, as far as a winner goes, I definitely give it to the R3K, and hear me out. The main reason why I say this is because the R-VN has such a slow time to kill. Like, compared to the other weapons in the game, you are going to have trouble in a one-on-one gunfight against almost every single weapon in the game, especially at long range. So because of this, this is a very, very big problem for the R-VN, and it mainly comes down to it only being a 2-round burst weapon. I think the idea of a 2-round burst weapon is a cool idea. However, I don't think it practically works in a Call of Duty game because it slows down that time to kill every time you have to shoot a new burst by 200 milliseconds, and that's a horrible problem. Not to mention the time to kill gets worse and worse and worse every single time you miss a bullet. So that's a huge massive problem for the R-VN, and because of that, I'm going to give the winner this week to the R3K. But you can let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you disagree with me? Do you like the R-VN better? You can let me know what you think down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, it would be fantastic if you could hit that like button. It's always greatly appreciated when you do. You can also check out my Twitch, Twitter, Let's Play channel, all of that crap down in the description. But thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, guys, peace out.